This is dark.
Hi guys.
Welcome to my channel, and today we're checking this video out. If you're new here, please consider liking, subscribing, and the link to my Bambi coffee will be down. Please check that out, and let's get right into this video.
Reached Poland. Europe's how can I put this? Poland knows how to take a hit. It's like
This is dark.
It's dark. Russia.
I'm sorry, it's funny.
Germany.
It's funny, but it's dark.
His demonstration
Is that all
is
you
funny,
got? I'm not
but
even
these were
breaking a
truly
sweat.
what Poland went through
Yeah.
in their history.
To learn geography.
By the way, this is my buddy Art. He's half Polish. Art, do you know anything about Poland?
I know nothing about Poland, but I know my last name means on Friday.
So anyway, I have another Polish friend named
Wow.
Conrad who's actually also going to be in this episode. He's Polish and he speaks Polish.
Hey, that guy.
Well, Art, you can also play Poland in the skits and stuff in this episode. Is that cool?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, cool. Anyway, hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs. Welcome to the Wolverine
Hello, boss.
of Europe. The Poles know how to deal with calamity, and if there was ever a mutant apocalypse, you would probably want one on your team. In any case, let's begin. How to piss off a Polish person 101. Oh man, I just visited Poland. I sure loved that Eastern European country. It's Central European. Yeah, I don't like being called Eastern Europe, even though, I mean, come on, they're kind of more on the eastern side of the continent, and it's okay, Central European. The country is located in Central Europe and bordered by 7 other countries. Keep in mind, this little guy right here is a detached exclave of Russia called Kaliningrad. Speaking of which, we already mentioned this in the Germany episode, but Poland shares an island called Usedom, or Uznam, with Germany in this lagoon. The borders follow some natural boundaries like rivers and mountains. However, most of them were agreed upon after war times. The country is divided into 16 voivodeships, or provinces, the capital and largest city of the country, Warsaw, in the center. It also holds the busiest airport, Warsaw International. From there, the second largest city is Krakow, known as the medieval capital, down south, and it holds the second largest airport, John Paul II Krakow International. And rounding out for third place is the city of Łódź, which means boat, nearly in the center of the whole country. Nonetheless, the city of Gdansk holds the third largest airport, Gdansk International, and also the busiest shipping port located on the Baltic Sea, where much of the cargo comes into the country. Otherwise, their entire sea access is confined to the coastline. They do not own any distant islands in the Baltic. Due to the general flat landscape making much of the north and central parts, Poland is a bustling transport
very
hub with numerous roadways
Yeah,
that traverse
that's-
every single corner
seems
into
like
every neighboring nation. Since joining the EU, nearly 2 billion euros have been invested in Poland's rail lines, and high-speed lines are being constructed today. Poland doesn't have any autonomous areas, but if we had to discuss historical and cultural regions, many people may just refer to this general area as Masuria, sometimes even historical Prussia. This general area is Pomerania, that's right, same as the dog, which is where it comes from, and the coastal area is Kashubia, where the Kashubians are mostly found. There's Greater Poland, Lesser Poland, which at the very border has Ruthenia or Red Ruthenia. Parts of the south are
So please, you guys should explain in the comment section, like, why is it greater and why is it lesser? Is it geographically because they're higher or lower?
Yeah.
Kind of makes
Because
sense that
the
way.
place that he just pointed, Lesser Poland, I think that's where the Kozak and Warsaw is located at, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I think the Warsaw is located at the
Center.
center. So probably that area there,
Yeah.
this area. So let's go.
considered Silesia, which are inhabited by peoples that have their own distinct culture apart from the Polish. It's all kind of confusing, and we'll talk more about it later. One thing you have to understand is that historically, Poland had a lot of different types of administrative divisions, and much of it was shaped by war. Sometimes they had more land, other times they had less, and for 123 years, they kind of disappeared altogether. Here's Prussia!
Austria!
Well, actually, they almost completely disappeared. I mean, Krakow was technically a free city-state for about 30 years. And keep in mind, we mentioned this in the Lithuania
Yes,
episode, but if you
yes.
want to be incredibly technical, historically, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth had some colonies. Way back yeehaw, when they thought one island in the Gambia, as well as Trinidad and Tobago, would be good overseas investments, making them the only sites that the Polish had colonized outside of Europe.
Then what happened?
In the end, it was too hard for them to manage, and they sold them off. The end. So anyway, here are some places of interest you guys, the Polish geography, suggested we mention in this episode. They have quite a few UNESCO heritage sites. A lot of them are like chapels, the Holy Mountain of Kabarka, the painted village of Zalipy, Chopin's Heart, this rock city, the Upside Down House, Kościuszko
Wow.
Mound,
Upside
the
Down House.
Carrot House, the world's most narrow house.
How does
Tons
that
of
work?
cool statues and monuments like
I've seen-
these.
There's an upside down house in Lagos that when you enter the house, so the floor will be at the ceiling, then ceiling, literally you're walking on the ceiling, then the chairs will be on the ceiling.
How
the
do you
bed.
sit down?
They're not. It's not for your comfort. Just
Okay,
like,
not for it's like
yeah,
a museum.
it's like a museum, an artistic kind of work. So everything like is the opposite of a normal world. The upside down. So like
So if you want to go up to that, you can't go up to there, right?
I don't know. I don't know how they do the staircase, but like when you're watching a video of the house, when you flip your phone over, it just looks like a normal house. Imagine this our room set like this.
Yeah.
It's being flipped upside down, like we are on the ceiling, like these chairs, as it is.
The world's tallest Pope statue, tons of World War II sites, it's kind of what they're known for, with the most famous one probably being the Auschwitz concentration camp. Of course, there are way too many churches like these. This one was where all the former kings were coronated. And of course, there's Warsaw's St. John's Cathedral. There's a bunch of synagogues that actually survived World War II, and there's even a wooden mosque for the Tatar minority in Kruszyniany. There's so many museums and galleries. Here's a bunch of notable ones, and too many castles, but they're very proud of having the world's largest medieval castle in Malbork. Yeah, Poland does not fall short when it comes to sights to see, or things to do,
There's
or
actually a
nature to
surprising
explore.
fact
And
that
that
they
means we
mentioned
move on to
it,
the
but
next segment.
I only have the facts. I won't mention it to avoid.
It is said that the name Poland
religious.
comes from Polani,
Yeah.
which means people living in open fields. Poland is not all flat and not all plains. There's much more to it than you think.
Poland is generally divided into 5 physical regions: the coast, the lakelands, the Polish plain, the Polish uplands, and the mountain regions. Much of Poland's coast along the Baltic Sea is straight until you hit the east and you get these interesting natural formations called spits. We've already talked about them in the Lithuania episode, but basically, spits are thin, narrow sandbanks that divide the sea from another body of water, creating saltwater lagoons, the largest one being the Bay of Puck, the Szczecin, and the Vistula Lagoon, shared with Russia's Kaliningrad exclave. Much of the country inland lies on the flat Polish plain, part of the greater North European plain, a huge open flat segment of Central Europe that extends across multiple countries. Many people say that this is both the blessing and curse of Poland, because although a third of the country is forested, this one being the largest national park, and about a third is arable, making them a powerhouse contributor to Europe's agriculture sector, it did kind of make it easy for outside forces to enter and invade, with little or no natural obstacles barricading the interior of the country. Anyway, within this plain, many rivers like the Notek, the Varta, and the longest river, the Vistula, meander through the fertile valleys, passing through many important cities like Warsaw. In the north side, you have 2 massive lake districts, the Pomeranian and the larger Masurian, which also holds the largest lake of the country, Lake Śniadwy. The further south you go, the higher the elevation gets until you hit the Poland uplands. A little further south on the border with the Czech Republic and Slovakia, you find the 2 main and largest mountain chains, the Sudets and the Beskids, which form the north part of the larger famous Carpathian mountain chain. Here you can also find the tallest peak, Mount Rysy, right on the border of Slovakia.
Alright, and that just about does it. Now I need my triple shot of espresso break, and this time, Art is gonna come in to finish off the physical geography section.
What do you want me to say, Barbie?
The next thing on the teleprompter.
Now, as you can see by this point, Poland has a lot more than just flat plains and lakes. They even have moving sand dunes in the north and a small desert in Boyenduf, which literally
What is
translates
sand
to
dune?
mistakes.
Like-
Yeah, Poland.
Is like the don't you always see a desert, like you see dunes of sand, like those. Yeah, that's the sand dune. Those sands.
Deserts. You never think those two would go together, right? Oh, and there's also a crooked forest made up of trees
seen
that
this.
bend at a 90
Wow.
degree
Well, it's still
angle. Many
impressive to
people
see
have
every single
theories
time.
as to how it got that way.
how
Some
did the
say
tree
it's
grow
natural,
to
some
that
say it was a
cold?
dude
Cold.
trying to make chairs. In any case, Poland is a major producer of apples, 6th in the world, as well as being the world's
My
largest
favorite
treacle. What the heck is treacle? And amber exporter. I don't even know what amber is either. What is that? Petrified tree sap?
It actually is.
It is. Whoa! Today, though, Poland's economy is now mainly driven by the service sector and industry, with main products like machinery and cars, buses, and video games being their largest export. Anyway, Poland also has quite a few endemic
What
animal
brings up-
species like storks, Eurasian lynx, roe deer, and they have one of the largest
Bison.
populations of the rare European bison, which, have you guys ever had a bison burger? I mean, that's like
have something like
really
that?
good. All right, don't eat those. Those are endangered. And bears. In fact, a bear once served in the Polish army, and there's a
Yeah.
statue dedicated
What
to
about
him.
that?
Look it up. Good old
job.
Wojtek. Anyway, time to finish up with food. Some of the top Polish dishes. You guys, the Polish geography peeps.
That's what I call them, Art.
Suggested we mention include things like bigos, cabbage rolls, galanka pork knuckle, roasted duck served with honey and apples. So many soups like these. But the national did from Poland, from the Polish Jews, not New York.
Bagels.
They did move to New York.
That's New York.
Oh, and of course, you cannot talk about Poland without mentioning vodka. Some say it was invented in Poland, some say the
Kind of like
Polish
their
just make really
tradition.
good vodka. But either way, vodka usually takes up a huge section in most Polish grocery stores. I've seen this guy, Baka.
No, you haven't. That was Knob Creek whiskey, and we don't talk about that here.
Polish people know what they like. They're a distinct people. Speaking of which, we now move on to...
Closer.
Thank you, Art.
Thanks. Can I do like one of those special effect outros, like, you know, Wolverine theme? Can I have the
Sure.
claws or something like that?
Sure, yeah, go for it. Here.
Okay. Is it true if I kill you, I become you?
Let's find out. It's true. It does work. Now, some of you guys have told me, in Poland, there's kind of like a word that sums up the Polish mindset. Załatwić. It means something along the lines of accomplishing tasks and taking care of business. Half of everybody in Europe has probably at one point at least encountered a Pole. They're everywhere, working. Polish doctors in Germany, Polish contract workers in London, Polish bus
There are
drivers
some
in
Poles
Iceland.
here,
Work
dude.
is in their blood, and it's a huge part of who they are. The population is about 40 million. However, keep in mind, diaspora-wise, there are about 20 million Poles living abroad, and they are the second largest Slavic group after
20
Russians.
million
The
living
country is
abroad.
incredibly
That's a
homogenous,
lot.
with about
Wow.
96% of the population claiming to be Polish, which is part of the Slavic family group. This makeup is mostly due to the Nazi intervention of World War II and Soviet relocation policies of the 20th century that drastically changed the previously diverse population. The country has few minority groups. However, of the minorities, the largest groups would be the Silesian at about 1.3% and the Kashubians at just under 1%. The rest is mostly made up of other Europeans like Ukrainians, Belarusians, Czechs, and non-Europeans. They use the Polish zloty as their currency, they use the type C, E, and F plug outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road. Now, of course, the main language of Poland is, of course, Polish. Lots of people say Polish is like really hard to learn. For one, they have 7 cases of speech and too many
they all
consonants.
speak one
They're smashed
language,
all
the
together
whole
at once.
country.
Geography Pavel says the
That's
Polish language is basically just spoken Wi-Fi passwords. Here's Conrad with a Polish tongue twister.
Chrząszcz brzmi trzcinie w Szczebrzeszynie i Szczebrzeszyn z tego słynie.
Sometimes even the
Tongue
Polish
twister.
people say they have to polish up on their Polish. Otherwise, Poland is kind of a sociological anomaly. Even though they are Slavic, it's kind of like the easternmost extent of Latin influence, which explains why the majority at around 86% identify as either Catholic or, in the very least, nominally Catholic, varying degrees of devotion. Catholicism plays a huge role in Polish culture. They even have a channel dedicated to the Pope on TV. Politically, Poland is usually a more conservative nation that holds to its roots, and even though they're part of the EU, they usually do not let anyone tell them how they should run things in their own country. It's their home, their rules. It's like, all right, so it's settled. What do you think of this proposal for the union, guys?
I hate it.
Now, Poland, you're a key player. We need you to like this.
I still hate it.
Come on, Poland, don't be stubborn.
Oh, really, Germany? You want to come back to Poland again and tell us how to do things around here? Do you remember what happened last time?
Are you really gonna play this card again?
I always will.
A little exaggerated, but yeah, don't push the Polish. They've gone through tons of that. I mean, literally, like a fifth of their population died during World War II, the majority of whom were Polish Jews. Often in tight-knit Yiddish-speaking communities, Poland had one of the highest populations of Jews prior to World War II, and at one point up to 10%. They played a huge historical role in what Poland was and would be. Poles are proud that they were the only European-occupied country to never collaborate with the Nazis. They never officially surrendered, and all those years the Nazis were there, the underground army kept fighting. Poles have an incredibly complex history. I mean, they had a weird electoral monarchy thing. Conrad, explain.
So the royal elections of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth became a thing after the death of the last Jagiellonian on the Polish throne. And at his death, it was decided that there would not be a royal dynasty that would just continue from generation to generation. That is to say that they would elect a king from a royal dynasty in Europe, but after his death, they would once again elect another monarch instead of letting his children take over the Polish throne.
Thank you, Conrad. Taking all that heavy stuff in, Polish people have told me there's always kind of like this sense of somber, stoic, suspicious, cynical, yet productive and prudent mentality that encapsulates the Polish. It's a weird paradox when you see them, because it's like,
Ugh, being Polish is the worst. Seriously.
I know, right? I hate Polish sausages. They're so gross.
They are, and the government is just totally whack.
yeah, Poland is terrible.
What did you
You can't say that, you're not from here!
Well, that took a little longer than expected, so here's Hannah with culture stuff.
Good to be back. Polish people have gone through a lot. They were pretty much fought for and invaded over 40 times for about 400 years.
40
Nonetheless,
times?
Polish people held
a lot
through
of
those
times.
centuries and retained their sense
Why?
of identity. For one, in Poland,
Wait,
it is
pause, please.
actually just as
Like, what's they
I,
actually born?
I only know about like 2 times, if I'm not mistaken, that's the Nazi
Germany
and the Russian.
Yeah. So what other time?
40 whole times.
40.
That's a lot of time. Like,
400
wow.
years. That is
So-
nearly a decade.
they get
Yeah.
attacked.
So what is actually there that they actually want? Like that's not like my question. Like what's actually in Poland that this invaders actually
There
want?
must be something about the Polish people that the world is not telling us.
Probably it's in a designated area.
Probably.
Maybe.
Oh no, like but it's still fascinating. Like what is it they actually want? Like guys, tell us in the comment section down below.
Popular, if not maybe even more, to celebrate one's name day as well as your birthday. Poland has
Name day.
quite a high level of tertiary educated individuals, with about 80% of the young adult population having enrolled in university. Also,
Wow,
side
that's
note,
good.
the 35% of Polish people living abroad are referred to as Polonia. There's a contest
Polonia.
where we figure out who is the strongest man in the world, and Poland has won the most of those contests. Then we
Whoa.
have the Silesian and Kashubian minorities. Let's let Conrad explain this one because, you know, it's a little complex.
The Silesians, who live for the most part today in Upper Silesia, are an ethnographic group with a distinctive dialect of Polish. Internationally, though, it's considered not as a nation or people, though some within the region consider themselves as a nation, which the Kashubians are, and they are considered as a West Slavic people separate from the Polish people. They are loyal towards Poland, but they have their own recognized minority status, they have their own traditions, they have their own cuisine,
Is it like
and they
ethnic
have their own language. There are even bilingual signs, which Paul will definitely put in now.
Thank you, Conrad. They've also racked up quite a few Nobel Peace Prizes at 17. They are frontrunners of innovations and inventions like kerosene and the kerosene lamp, the oil well, the bulletproof vest, and the modern drug test. A lot of festivals can be found year-round throughout the country and in different regions. Popular ones include All Saints' Day, May Day, the La Cognac Festival in Krakow, and during Christmas you might see the creepy Turon everywhere. To expound a bit more on Polish music and arts, here, you know, is Keith, or whatever.
Music in Poland goes way back to its ancient Slavic roots. Instruments typically used include things like the wood horn, the hurdy-gurdy, the horse hair drum, the pedal accordion, and the suka.
What you call me?
Even though he had spent most of his time in France, Chopin was born in Poland. His homeland was always one of the central themes to his often somber and melancholy masterpieces cherished worldwide. During the Polish National Revival, this dude collected varieties of folk music for broadcast, including the most famous ones, these which are still performed to this day. I know that there's this guitar player named Jakub Zychecki, and he is amazing.
Thank you, Keith. And now the most complicated part, history. In the quickest way I can condense it, Slavic tribes and states in the Vistula Basin, Piast Dynasty, Greater Poland, Christianity and tribal unification, Pomerania is annexed, this dude becomes the first king, feudal disintegration, Mongols invade, Czechs invade, Teutonic Knights invade, Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Swedes invade, Prussians invade, end of the Commonwealth, Constitution written, Napoleonic Wars, Kingdom of Poland and Free State of Krakow, Russian partitions and Russian Poland, World War I, Polish-Soviet War, independence from Russia, Germany invades, World War II.
So one was Polish-Soviet War. How
Wow.
about was the
begins, communism years, independence, weird West Germany stuff, some other interesting things like they got a pope and a Nobel Peace Prize, first fully free elections, they joined NATO and the EU, and here we are today! Some people you guys, the Polish geography suggested we mentioned in this episode include all those dukes and kings. Pretty much any hero that fought with the winged hussars, Copernicus, although he was technically
the
German,
winged
Marie
hussars.
Curie was actually Polish, Mikołaj Rai,
fearsome
Pope John Paul
warriors
II, all
of that
these
century.
athletes, these directors, all these artists and musicians, the dude from the movie The Pianist was a real guy, these American revolutionaries, and speaking of Americans, John Krasinski, Kristen Bell, Steve Carell, and Roman Polanski are also part Polish, Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, and finally, of course, Grzegorz Bręczyszewicz. There's a lot more I could have mentioned, but that would take way too long. There's a lot of famous Poles all over the world. They've left their global mark. And speaking of global marks, that brings us to... As a central player in Europe for a long, complicated history, it's no surprise Poland has picked up quite an entourage over many, many years of Polish existence. For one, as part of the Visegrad Group, the Czechs and Slovaks are generally considered the close West Slavic brothers. They've had very few wars and conflicts with them. They understand their languages, kind of. However, they both kind of think the other sounds funny when they talk. For Russians, it's more of like a people versus government thing. As people, Poles and Russians get along quite well on a human level. It's just the governments that often disagree and clash. Poland for a while was under the Iron Curtain and Warsaw Pact, which complicated things even more. But as crazy as things get, there is always kind of like this universal Slavic understanding, which is why Ukraine comes in as a pretty close friend. Ukrainians love to come to Poland for work. There is also a fast-growing Ukrainian community, and they kind of share a similar post-communist struggle alliance, although they still kind of don't like how Ukrainians honor the UPA, which is a whole other story. Poland is kind of like Germany's biggest regret that they have to constantly be reminded of literally every day, as they are neighbors, but they are the largest economic partner for them as well. Germany does have many bilateral relations with Poland. It's the 21st century, people have grown up and moved on, and the future looks bright mostly between the two. Quick note, Lithuania is like the divorced wife that they remember having some of the best years of their history with. Today, when a Pole meets a Lithuanian, they just kind of nod and smile, understanding everything the other is thinking without a single word. Their best friend, however, every Pole has told me the same thing: Hungary. Historically, they've shared some of the same monarchs, heroes. They've always helped each other in times of need. There are many parks and monuments commemorating the friendship between the two. There's even a saying in Polish: two brothers, both to the saber and the bottle. In conclusion, let's get this to Conrad. Conrad, what do you have to say?
Poland is a country that has a lot to offer both geographically and has been through pretty much everything historically. It's been an empire, it's been completely erased from the map, and today Poland is a growing and thriving country. I'm sure that the role of Poland on the European scene will only grow.
Thank you, Conrad, and thank you, Art, for being in this episode.
Stay tuned. Portugal is coming up next, guys.
Wow.
Like, Poland have been through a lot.
They have been through
A
the
lot.
edge.
Yeah. You know, each country has their own history, but I feel like reading Poland's history just a bit too long. Like, it's a long history in the sense that a lot have happened since the beginning. Like, how many years is Poland? That's what I want to ask. Like, how long has Poland been on the map?
Very, very old.
Very,
But
very
at
old.
some point they were actually erased from
Scattered,
the world
you
map.
know.
Yeah.
And they finally found their way back to the map, you know. Just a lot of bustling around the country.
Like, the country has been, like, really active.
Through turmoil.
Yeah, a lot has happened through there. Like, it's so incredible seeing how far they've come.
And they're striving.
Yeah, and they're still striving, even though what they've been through. Like, a lot of countries won't even be on the map. They'll just exist, like, they'll be reproduced in somewhere else, like, just patching up somewhere else. But
So many people don't have the fight in them, but the Polish people have the fight.
I think that's
in
what I
them.
would say, that they have that fight in them.
Yes.
Even coming from World War II, they still never surrender.
I didn't even know what the war was all about, the Polish. It was actually the Soviet Union and
Really? I
Poland.
didn't even know anything about World
And
War
World
I.
War II was the same from Germany and again Poland. Still Poland.
Wow. They've been through a lot, guys.
There is something there. The
Yeah.
world is hiding from us.
There's something we don't
Take
actually
it from
know.
me or leave it. I don't know what that is, so that nobody comes after me and be like, what is it? I don't know,
We
but
don't
from
know.
the way that the whole world or the whole
40
world
times.
has been attacking them, there is something there that they are not telling us.
Like 40 times.
There is something there.
We invaded 40 times. My country, I've never seen invasion.
Probably I was.
I've never.
I guess because that would never existed there.
Thank you guys for watching the thoughts. If you're new, please consider liking, subscribing, and the listener buy me coffee will be down. Check that out, and I hope to see you guys at my next video. Stay safe and bye.